Hey guys, welcome back. Tisha here for another Where is Wendy Williams episode review. And this is episode 2. As I said in episode 1, I am not going to go verbatim because there's a lot going on in the episode. I encourage you to watch it if you have not done so already. But I'm going to tell y'all this. I am pissed. Pissed. I'm laughing, but I'm really upset because I don't understand how you take Wendy from her family, claiming that there's financial abuse, and then give her to a pack of wolves who do what? Ding, 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 financially abuse her. This is what is going on. They're financially abusing her and they're allowing her to destroy herself even further, drinking herself to a slow death. What is wrong with these people? The Guardian is trash. Will is trash. Sean is trash. The judge is trash. Some of the family, in my opinion, and some of you may disagree with me, they're trash too. The Guardian tried to block this from getting out because she's not doing her job. And it's clear looking at these people that are surrounding Wendy and what's going on in her home that the Guardian isn't doing their job. At what point is it okay that this woman is just deteriorating before our eyes and nobody's doing anything, and all of these so-called managers and publicists are acting like they don't see anything wrong? Meanwhile, you got a production team and a driver that clearly sees that something isn't right. What does Sean do besides lie and connive? But we'll get into that, I guess, later on, maybe in upcoming episodes, because at the preview, I think that it's like each episode gets worse, okay? Oh, gosh. Kevin, this is Kevin's mom. And I'm listening to him talk, and he sounds concerned, but yet he's so void of emotion. And I just wonder if it's because he's been through so much that at this point, he's numb. I feel like I'm more emotional about this situation than some of the people that were watching who are around her, and they're witnessing it firsthand. This is just what we're seeing as people who don't even know her, except for that she was a star at one point, both on radio and in television. Something isn't right. If you can't handle pushback as a caregiver, as a manager, as anything associated with somebody who needs to hold Wendy accountable, then you need to be out the picture. Because Wendy, who can barely walk in certain instances and has to hold on to walls and things of that nature, should not be able to run over you when she cannot run. But let me get to the episode. So we begin the episode with another manager talking to Wendy. I didn't write down her name because as soon as I saw manager, whatever, I got irritated yet again. Because for some reason, this woman who told us in the very beginning on the first episode is broke and is having all these health issues and no current career, has all these managers. What for? We find out that Will's arranged a photo shoot for her to do in her hometown to help promote this podcast that she's supposed to be starting. I don't understand why they're even worried about this podcast when it's clear that she's not mentally prepared to do it. But this is the story that they're going with, so we're just going to go with the flow. So she goes to her hometown, plays an arcade game, and as she's looking at these pictures on the wall, she's staring at herself and she doesn't even recognize that that is a picture of herself on the wall. That to me is concerning, but it's not concerning to them. So they take Wendy Williams next to Wendy Williams Way. where she is approached by a woman. The woman asks her for a hug. Wendy's like, have you ever watched, my show? And she's like, I watched, some episodes here and there, but the woman wants to take a picture and all those other things. So they discuss the fact that Wendy grew up in the area, and Wendy's like, I grew up over there. And she's like, no, you grew up down the street. And she's like, I grew up over there. She goes, no, it's down the street. That's why they put the sign here and all this other stuff. And the lady laughs about it, but you can tell that Wendy is confused by the fact that she didn't quite remember which direction she grew up in. So she's talking to her and she's telling Wendy, this was your address and da-da-da and all the other. And Wendy can't recall. So that she gets in the car, she ends up driving off. Wendy runs into some more fans. They stop, they wind down the SUV window where they're approaching her and asking for her hand and a hug and all these other things. And they're very excited to see her. Now, while Wendy's embracing them, she's still in the car, but she's sticking her arm out the window and stuff. You see tears begin to run down Wendy's face. She's crying. And I wonder sometimes if Wendy is crying because she can't quite verbalize what it is that she's thinking. So we later see her enter what we're being told is her childhood home. She points out, that she used to stay in this room and her parents were in the middle and all those other things. And the people who currently live there are surprised that that's her home. While they're in there, Will is giving her a pep talk about how much she's accomplished since being in that home. As he's talking to her, he's getting on my nerves because if you don't pay close attention, you would think that he was operating from a place where he legitimately cares about Wendy. But Will isn't in it for Wendy. Will is in it for Wendy's money. Because he's not just there servicing her free of charge. He's very much so getting paid. So they walk out of the house. She sits down on the stairs. It's people out there recording her, as well as, I guess, the photographers that were hired for the day to do whatever photo shoot. And she's sitting there on the steps and she's crying. And he's like, I told you this would be good for you and da-da-da-da. And she looks at him and she says, I really want to get back on television. Does Wendy want to get back on television, or does Wendy want to be loved? Because I feel like she associates the fans and the fame with love. Wendy is lonely. You're going to hear me say that a couple times because I wrote it a couple times in my notes. She just seems lonely. So Wendy's dad, Tommy Sr., appears on camera and speaks about how wonderful his daughter is and how he always knew she would be famous. We then see at some point where Will comes in at Wendy's house. Wendy's laying in the bed. He looks at Wendy's jewelry box and notices a wad of cash. Now, he's asking her why she has all this money. And she says, because you gave it to me. So here he is yet again playing games. You gave the girl the money. He then says, yeah, I gave it to you, but I expected you to put it into the bank. My thing is, why not bring her to the bank? Because he lets us know that he created a separate account for her since she doesn't have access to the one at Wells Fargo. So if you indeed created an account for her at the bank, then why not give her the money and take her to the bank for her to put it in, or have the money put into her bank? $10,000 to $15,000 just to be handed to her is an interesting number. And I don't understand why he want to give her that in cash. How much of a cut did you get from that you had that? Where did that money come from? Like, if I was the people, I would have wanted to know more information about that. But maybe it came from the stuff that she's selling. I don't know. We're reminded that the bank did what they did as far as blocking Wendy from her accounts because they felt like Wendy was the victim of financial exploitation. And if you ask me, she's still being exploited, especially with all the things that have came out about her current guardian. If you have not seen it, and I'm trying to not watch other people's things because I still have to watch these other episodes, but Mims, Make It Make Sense, on his YouTube channel, he actually revealed who the person is that is the guardian. And apparently there's some information out there that that guardian, along with her firm, is currently being sued for defrauding other people under similar circumstances. So things are starting to come out about this person. But let me get back into this. Kevin Jr. lets us know that he was made power of attorney around the time that the bank was saying that the family was doing stuff, and it wasn't true. I don't understand why she would make him power of attorney around that time and not before. It doesn't make the situation look any better. But Kevin says that his mom was flying back and forth from Miami to New York on private planes, paying for appointments, that she's never been a cheap person, and that all these charges were made on her American Express card. So his cousin then tells us, like I said in the last episode, how $120,000 was spent for the birthday, and $80,000 was spent for his rent, and $100,000 was spent for Uber Eats. But Kevin is maintaining that although that money was spent, it was spent with consent from his mother. As I said yesterday, I don't know anything about this. That's not my lane. To me, those numbers sound high, but his mom has something that I don't have a lot of, which is dinero, baby. That's her lane. That's not mine. Apparently, she spends like this. I guess American Express, Wells Fargo, whoever, they disagree, because if she normally spent like that, then it wouldn't have been a flag. But I'm going to leave it alone. These are rich people problems, like I said yesterday. So we are told by an attorney that normally it is a strong preference for the guardian that is appointed to be a family member. But if the family members are fighting, and if the judge thinks that there's some shady things going on, then the judge will look further into it. If the judge feels like people aren't getting along, then it doesn't happen. They'll appoint somebody. So maybe it is possible that they weren't granted guardianship because Wendy wasn't getting along with them because of the things that were going on. Example, them telling her she couldn't drink. So the guardian was assigned. And then at some point, she told the guardian that she wanted little Kevin, to go. The cousin says it's because Kevin wouldn't let her drink. You all let me know if you think that that's why she wanted Kevin to go down below. So we see Will enter Wendy's bedroom. That same wad of cash that he was talking about before, I noticed that went from being in, because when they were talking about, she put it in her chest and kissed it and all that stuff, is now sitting on her stomach, okay? He says to her as he walks in, "Did you eat or did you drink one of your specialty items?" Specialty items, the way he said it, makes it sound like he's accustomed to seeing Wendy drink, like he didn't already know the answer to this. So then he goes directly to an area and pulls out what looks like, or we find out later it's a bottle of Kettle One vodka, right? So you can't really tell how full it is or it isn't because they're blurring out the logo and all that other stuff, but it's not a full bottle. Like, it's down. It looks like it's less than half at this point. So he says, "Did you drink this all in one day?" And she's like, "Yes." And then she goes, "No." I'm laughing because there are some moments where Wendy appears to be so childlike, but then I gotta rein myself back in and remind myself that this is a mental thing. This is an alcohol thing. This is a abuse of narcotics thing. Like, there's a lot going on here, in my opinion, with Wendy. So he then sits down on the bed and acts all concerned and says, "Wendy, you know this is a little excessive." If those cameras weren't there, I don't think he would have said a single thing about excess, about alcohol, or he would have did what we saw him do, which is take the bottle and then let us know that he went to pour it out. You don't say anything about her vapes. So why are we supposed to believe that you say something about her alcohol? Because I want to know, how does she get the alcohol? She can't walk long distances for most of the time, even though we see her taking little walks here and there, without holding on to something or someone. So someone has to be going and purchasing this and bringing it to her. So we see her on the phone with her son, Kevin. Production asks, how often do you talk to Kevin? And she says, I can talk to Kevin whenever I want to. But I thought the family told us that they don't really get to talk to her unless she calls them. So I want to know more about that. Kevin feels like because his mom was an alcoholic, that she did things growing up to compensate for it. We see Sean, the publicist, and Wendy, and Will, and they're talking about, what's next. Sean, the publicist, is a joke. Her leave out alone says that she's a joke. So they're talking about shooting pilots and who she wants to interview for this podcast that she's going to do. Wendy can barely focus. Her answers are short. She's clearly not herself. How is she going to interview anyone? You then have a producer there saying to Will, do you think that Wendy is really ready for a podcast? Because she seems to struggle with expressing herself, which we've seen minutes into episode 1. But you got Will's money grubbing tail saying, oh, Wendy does this in her sleep. Not anymore. 20 years later or not, she's not ready. And I don't think she will ever be. In her current state, Wendy cannot deliver to a live audience. In her current state, Wendy cannot answer questions. How is she going to be ready for a podcast that would require for her to emote, number one, to engage, number two, and for her to do more than just give 4 or 5 word answers? The only time Wendy seems to be able to really, really express herself is when she's cursing people out. We see Wendy in the bed. And y'all, they are showing Wendy without her wig. And I mean, not the I'm pulling out the note from under my wig thing. I mean, the wig is off, no wig cap. Her hair is being exposed. We all know this is not the Wendy that we would normally see. So you're showing her without her wig. You're showing her in these tacky outfits. You're showing her with it freezing outside, I guess, because she got on a fur, but she got on Louis Vuitton shorts, and she's happy about her thigh gap. Like, there's a lot that's going on here that shows to me that Wendy is just crying out. But you see Wendy being taken to this restaurant where she is surrounded by alcohol but expected not to drink. That's a problem in itself. Take her somewhere that doesn't serve alcohol so you don't have to worry about tricking her into not drinking it. Anyways, she's crying, saying that she wants to get to know people and she doesn't have friends. And Will's trying to tell her she has all types of friends and all those other things. And I say, just because you have people around you doesn't mean that you have friends. It's clear that the girl is lonely. Wendy is surrounded by people on her payroll. So the waiter comes over. She asks if she can get some white wine. He says, okay. You then say, well, get up and say that he has to go to the bathroom. But what he does is he tells the waiter, don't bring her any white wine, no alcohol whatsoever. Once again, trying to do this, in my opinion, for the cameras. He says, how about you give her some type of mocktail? So they said, well, we can make her like a mocktail margarita or something like that. And he's like, great. Yes, bring that over. So Will then lets us know that Kevin does not want his mom using any substances, that he has a no alcohol policy, and that he stressed it. So this makes me feel like the only reason why he's saying anything is because he knows that this is being documented. This stuff is being filmed. And in the long run, if he doesn't say the right things, if and when the family does regain some type of control, they're gonna get rid of Will. We then hear her talking, and he's asking if you miss the family. She tells Will no. But she says she misses her only son, but she can't fly to Miami because she doesn't have what she needs and all these other things. Now, Kevin Jr. says when his mom is in New York, the only time people want to spend time around her or do anything with her is if they're getting paid, which goes back to me saying that she is surrounded by leeches. He says, my mom goes there and sabotage occurs for her there because she drinks and she smokes e-pens. We then see Wendy on the couch talking to Sean about how excited she is to go to California because Sean has sneakingly scheduled an interview with NBC without letting Will or the Guardian know. Now, we don't see it here, but we get a clip of it for next episode. You know that Wendy is in no mental space to do anything concerning any type of affiliate like NBC. So why would you even bother schedule it? And that's because Sean is also using Wendy, and she's also looking for an opportunity. So even if it means putting Wendy in a situation where she will embarrass herself even further, that's what Sean's going to do. So Wendy says Sean and her are going to gobsmack Will when they leave because she wants to smoke when she wants to smoke. She wants to drink liquor when she wants to drink liquor, and she's mad at Will for trying to stop that. Keep in mind that she's telling this to Sean because Sean is going to act later like she doesn't know that the lady does these things and like she doesn't know that the lady can't control herself. So to earn money, they let us know that Wendy is selling clothes, shoes, purses, and accessories. Why does Wendy need to earn money when apparently the Guardian has access to some form of money, number one? Number two, she got stacks of money just sitting around her house that she hasn't even put into bank. I'm confused. As they're doing this, as they're prepping whatever clothes they're going to prep to sell, you hear Wendy yelling at her and calling her dumb and all these other things. But Sean says she has thick skin, so she's okay with it. As I said before, and some of you all did as well in the comments, thank you so much, by the way, for sharing your stories. Being a caretaker of someone who is going through illness, let alone dementia, isn't easy. A lot of times it's hard. So it does require for you to have a certain level of patience and a thick skin. And it seems like Sean isn't bothered that much by what's going on. So we then see Sean and Wendy running errands. And today they're going to go get vape pens, something that we know Wendy doesn't need. So her driver has been driving her for over a year. He said that he's been fired twice, once because he refused to take her to go get a drink. So they take her to a smoke shop to get these blue vapes that she likes, and then they're supposed to go to the Wendy Williams show. So you see Sean go in, you see her get the vape, she comes back in, but Wendy doesn't feel like that's the right vapes, even though the driver's saying he believes that those are the right vapes. So she goes in and gets another vape, and she starts yelling at her, telling her to go back in there, just give it back to him. I don't want nothing from there. Let's just go by the Wendy Williams and now the Sherry's show. So she goes back, which means Sherry's in Wendy's old studio doing whatever. So she goes back over there. They drive past the spot. They end up back at the vape store. She's like, no, why are we at this vape store? I want to go to the Wendy Williams show. We didn't go to the Wendy Williams show. So we see them drive past the Wendy Williams show in the same vape spot a couple of times, right? She's making a scene. It's a whole bunch of stuff going on. This becomes, at one point, she hits the girl Sean's chair. This becomes such a big issue that production team ends up telling her that they're going to stop filming and that they're going to have them go back to the house. But Wendy is still thinking about the vapes and liquor. So she's like, all right, y'all can go, but we're going to get my vapes and some champagne. Even though at that present time, she's smoking one of the vapes that she was complaining about. So her driver says that he's worried about her and that she's getting worse. He's even asked the crew, like, have you not noticed how she blanks out at times and how she seems to lose her memory and repeats the same things? She sometimes doesn't even realize, this is the driver talking, who I am. And he has been around her for over a year and she struggles with that. He says the people who are around her on a daily basis need a super paycheck. That to me is extremely concerning, that this driver is seeing all of this, but the managers and the publicists aren't. So the producers are so concerned about what they saw that they decide that they're going to interview Sean to talk about what happened the previous day with the vape situation. After seeing the way that Wendy behaved and how that interaction was, they're concerned. And Sean claims that she doesn't see anything wrong, that Wendy's just like that. Nothing's wrong with her health. I guess she can't see and she can't hear because it's clear something is wrong. So production then asks her if she's worried about her alcohol consumption. And she says she's not worried because Wendy knows when to control herself. They just let her do whatever. So they let her drink. We go to commercial break, and when we come back, the production team is there for the first time in several days. They are concerned with what they see, so they alert the management team. The manager that we saw at the beginning of the episode comes in and says, oh, she's knocked out. She's in REM sleep. Production says when we came in, she was slurring her speech and her eyes were at the back of her head, which is why we were concerned. Some of Wendy's issues are strictly, to me, because of the alcohol abuse. You see piles of clothes everywhere. She's calling Will, letting him know there's piles of clothes everywhere. It's a bunch of cat food and there's throw up in certain places. Now, my question is it from the cats or is it from Wendy? The people from a place called What Goes Around Comes Around, I guess they're there to get the clothes. They're being sent away because of how messy things are. I look at this and I'm like, okay, why isn't someone with her at all times? If she needs a guardian, then I would think that she needs some form of aid as well. So Will comes in and tries to act like he's about to fix the situation. Wendy lets him know that she needs more sleep and then she needs to go out to drink. Like I said earlier, she's accustomed to drinking around Will. He is part of the problem. According to Will, he cannot tell whether or not Wendy was drinking because he just feels like she was really, really tired, which is why she was acting that way. He says he can't determine her mental health, but he doesn't ask questions because he doesn't want to know. Then how much do you really care about her if you see her deteriorating like this and you ask no questions? Will is the problem. You all, that's it for episode 2. Like, comment, and subscribe. Leave your thoughts down below. Who got on your nerves the most during this part? Until next time.